I mean, I think this has to go in S tier, personally.
S tier?
I love this one.
Yeah, we're definitely getting lit up in the comments.
Yeah.
For this one.
I think might be my favorite Star Wars movie. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the channel. We're your Back-Asswards boys. I'm Kyle.
I'm Arden. And tonight we're doing something a little different, folks. We are making a tier list in tonight's episode. And to commemorate something that is very, very special, Kyle has finally watched all 9 films of the Skywalker Saga in Star Wars. And so that is the tier list we're going to be making tonight. I'm very excited. I've seen all of these movies multiple times. Kyle, I actually feel like for this episode, it might be worth you kind of explaining your journey to the end of the Skywalker Saga.
Yeah, this has been obviously a long time coming. Despite taking this long, I do consider myself a fan of the Star Wars franchise as a whole. You know, being a Star Wars fan, I do like to hate Star Wars sometimes, but I wanted to review the Star Wars movies on the channel, but I figured I need to finish the series before I can justify doing that, because despite our focus so far being mostly on horror, we do want to review sci-fi as well. And we figured a great place to really start with that would be, we're gonna try and do all of the Star Wars movies here pretty soon. No promises, you know,
no
but we're gonna try to do all the Star Wars movies. And so our idea here is we're gonna do a tier list kind of off the cuff of all of the Star Wars movies, and then we're going to go through and do our usual review process for all 9. Maybe we'll sneak Rogue One in there, maybe even Solo, we'll see. And we'll redo our tier list at the end and kind of see how a fresh rewatch has changed our opinions on these films. That being said, hello, fellow nerds. This is a tier list, which means these are our opinions. I know you love Star Wars, man. I love Star Wars too. Don't come at me, okay? Don't come at Arden. We know how us Star Wars fans can go. So,
yeah, I was just going to say that might actually come up in tonight's episode, is how Star Wars fans act. I might be fulfilling one of those stereotypes. Hopefully not. Oh my God, the worst of the Star Wars nerds are some of the worst people I've ever encountered. And as you can see, folks, this is our tier list. As of right now, we are going to be going through these movies chronologically, not in terms of the Skywalker Saga story, but in terms of release order. Right?
See, we're already pissing off some nerds. We haven't even started yet, man.
I wouldn't have done the tier list that way. Yeah, I know you wouldn't have. And that's why we're making our video. So that means that we start with
the Star Wars.
The Star Wars.
I'll start us off here. Is that okay? Can I start us off?
Yeah, please. I would love it, actually.
I think this is a fine Star Wars movie. I think this one sits right at, I think it's like an A-, B+. You know, so I'm gonna let you, because this is gonna be accumulative. We're gonna average it out between our ratings here. I'm gonna let you decide where that makes it land, but I'm gonna say A-, B+.
I think that this movie is a solid, and I mean solid, A tier. Rewatching this movie as an adult was very, very special, I will say. I'm gonna throw it into the A tier for us if we got to choose.
Yeah, I think one of the best things that this one has going for it is, despite really being written for a long part of its production time as a like standalone movie, they did a really good job of, in retrospect, tying so many little things in, to the point that it's kind of like a trope that Star Wars does this at this point. But it's a trope because they do a really good job of it, especially with these first like 3 movies, even the first original 6, of tying these little tiny things back to the original movie right where we started. And I love that.
I agree. And I think that that speaks to something that we talk about all the time on the channel in terms of world building, right? And I
Hmm.
think that this movie sets one of the best foundations we've ever seen in sci-fi, quite honestly.
Yeah, we get so many of one of my favorite aspects of sci-fi in this film, which is just weird little dudes, you know? I love that we
Yeah.
get so many weird little dudes in this movie, and we get so many throughout this franchise. Of course, it's one of its strong points, but this one really sets the bar. Obviously, there's Chewbacca, he if we want to call him Lil, you know, the whole like what is it, Mos Eisley cantina, the cantina scene.
Hmm. Hmm.
So many weird little dudes in there, and it's
Yes.
genuinely just iconic. Arden, let's make some more nerds angry though while we're here. Did Han shoot first?
Oh, this is an excellent question, Kyle, and I'm glad that you asked it. I think there's an objective truth, which is Han shot first in the
In
original
the
cut,
original cut,
right?
right.
And I think the reason why people get so heated about this is because what it says about Han Solo's character. I'm not saying anything that anybody hasn't said already, but Han Solo fulfills the character archetype of the reluctant hero, right? So
Hmm.
him shooting Greedo first is like a really good starting point for his character. It tells us that aspect of him exists and is there, and then he changes by episode 5, episode 6, and I think that's what people get upset about, is that it kind of takes that character development, and it's a part of it, I will admit. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it does take that little bit of character development away from Han.
I would agree with that, yeah, but I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a change. I don't think it affects his
It's
character
not.
development. You know,
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
still a dirtbag,
Scoundrel.
smuggler. Like, yeah, like he's that guy. So, and Greedo sucks.
Yeah,
Anyways,
exactly. Greedo got shotched. And also, last thing we'll say about A New Hope, first movie that depicts a lightsaber, let's go. It
and
honestly,
bro,
it deserves to be an A tier for that reason, if nothing
and
else.
I was a little guy, you know, watching the prequel trilogies come out, of course.
Sure.
But man, the first time seeing a lightsaber turn on, that changes your brain chemistry as a kid. Oh,
I
it's
agree.
never the same. Literally every single time I look at this little light back here, I'm like, wow.
All right, folks, this moves us on to, and here's my thing. This used to be my top Star Wars movie for a really long time. I do think that it has been dethroned by one of the other movies. However, I do think that this movie belongs in an S tier. Uh,
Agreed.
I I think
Hmm.
that this movie truly fulfills what a sequel is supposed to do, and I think that it applies to a lot of other genres where like a sequel should be mostly character development. It should have a darker tone, especially if we're doing like sci-fi, fantasy, and things like that. I think that a sequel is where you should learn the most about the characters and the world that you are in. This movie does that quite flawlessly. Also, can we just say iconic? I am your father, dude. That's this movie. You know what I mean? Change the face of cinema. It's so
Hmm.
iconic. That's why it's going in an S tier for me.
Yeah, no, S tier for sure. It is the sequel, in my opinion. Who doesn't love Death Star Part 2 Electric Boogaloo? You know, I love
Yes.
the setup for that. I love Luke's character development in this movie specifically is really, really good.
I will say though, one of the things that we do get in this movie is Yoda. Yoda's first
Yes.
appearance in the release order, I should say. And I do think that, again, revolutionary in the sense of the puppeteering that went
Hmm.
into Yoda is very, very impressive. This iconic way that he talks, obviously Frank Oz as the iconic voice behind Yoda. I really do think that this, in terms of this tier list, this might be the only one that makes it into S tier. I don't know yet. It's the one that should be an S tier if we had to pick one.
Yeah, I think if there's one like quintessential Star Wars movie, yeah,
Probably Empire Strikes
probably
Back.
Empire.
However, I would say a very close contender for perhaps the most prolific Star Wars movie would be.
And what a way to wrap up a trilogy, you know? I don't think it's the best ending to a trilogy ever. You know where I stand on that. But
Sure.
it's a close second, in my opinion. I really, really like this movie personally. I think it wraps up Luke's story really well. It wraps up Anakin's story really, really well. I'm tempted to go S tier because I do really like this movie and I think it ends the trilogy really, really well. But I think there's enough as far as like the directing and all of that goes that you could put it in an A tier. I think you can argue for that, but I personally would go for S tier.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, Kyle. And I think that we're going to put this into S tier. I specifically, in this movie, I love Luke's character development in this movie. Something that I talk to you about all the time in the Star Wars franchise. One of my favorite moments, again, I'm not saying anything that anyone else hasn't said, but it's the conversation where Luke has been captured by Darth Vader and they're walking to the Emperor's chamber before this, you know, iconic lightsaber fight and the end of the movie pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And Anakin, or Darth Vader in this instance, is looking at Luke and says,
"That name no longer has any meaning for me."
And Luke responds with,
"It is the name of your true self you've only forgotten. I know there is good in you."
like, he's so convicted. He's such a strong character in that regard, to look at someone like Darth Vader, even if he is your dad, to be like, there is still good in you. Like, I love Luke's character in this one. I really do think that this might be the most satisfying Star Wars movie out of all 9 of them in the Skywalker Saga.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, maybe if Rogue One was in this conversation, maybe that one would also be the most satisfying Star Wars movie, but we're not talking about that tonight.
Not tonight.
But we are going to be moving right along, folks. And now we're getting into the...
Actually, I gotta go.
Okay. This is my hot take on this movie. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
This movie feels like a Star Wars movie. I think the vibe, if we were doing a review on this movie, I think the vibe might be its highest praise that we would give it in one of our review formats. I think the vibe in this movie is immaculate. Double-bladed lightsaber, sick as fuck, right? Do I think that this movie...
of the Fates.
Duel of the Fates. I mean, the music in all of these movies is quite mesmerizing. I know that this movie doesn't have a good script. I know that the humor is kind of outdated and even falls a little flat, but I'm thinking B- C+ for the placement on Phantom Menace.
You know, I might have some nostalgia bias on this one a little bit. This was the first Star Wars movie I ever saw.
Me too, by the way, for this one.
But I love this movie, dude. It's like you said, it feels like a Star Wars movie. It's fun. Little Anakin is so cute. The pod race scene is epic. The fight between Qui-Gon and Darth Maul is, I would argue, one of the best lightsaber fights in the entire series. Darth Maul's a fantastic villain. It kind of sucks that he gets wasted so early, honestly. I think we could have done more with him. And I know we do in the Clone Wars and stuff. But I really like this movie, and I think a B is a great place for this movie.
Yeah, we're definitely getting lit up in the comments for this one. But this does move us on to, which I feel like is kind of a forgotten film in terms of all 9 of these. Like, I feel like people talk about Rise of Skywalker even more than they talk about Attack of the Clones. And you're starting us off on this one for Attack of the Clones, Kyle. So what do you think?
You know, Attack of the Clones is fine. I think the story is good. Again, we get the downfall of Anakin Skywalker, the start of the downfall of Anakin Skywalker, at least the temptation of Anakin Skywalker. And, you know, we see so much character growth with him in so many different directions, right? Hayden Christensen, I think, does a really good job with it too. That's the other part. I'll stand on that. I guess that's maybe one of the downsides is we get a very dynamic villain in Palpatine, right? But we don't get like a aggressive, fast, flashy villain necessarily in him. And so I think that's where this movie suffers a little bit.
I will say, I think that the person who kind of the character that kind of fulfills that role in this movie is Christopher Lee as Count Dooku.
I guess that's fair.
Which he does help elevate this movie quite a bit. I will say, I think that Count Dooku as not only a plot device, but in terms of the performance from Christopher Lee, if we were doing a review of Attack of the Clones, I think he would be one of the highlights of this film, for sure.
Agreed. But overall, I don't know. I think it's the weakest of the prequel trilogy, for sure. So I would say a low B, high C.
I think I'm pretty comfortable putting Attack of the Clones into C tier. I will say that I also think that this film does a good job of setting up Padme and Anakin's relationship and how they feel about each other at this separate chapter in their life. Probably out of all 9, this one feels the least like a Star Wars film, which we're going to have a conversation about that here in a couple of movies. So just hold on like 2 or 3 more minutes in the video. But I think this one doesn't quite hit the vibe mark as hard.
Yeah. And it's fine. I'm going to watch it every time. I'm not going to skip it, you know?
No.
But because there's great scenes, there's great moments, there's great music.
But now another movie that I assume won't be in C tier, probably the most beloved movie from the prequel trilogy, which is...
And again, I may have some nostalgia blindness with this one a little bit. It was very hyped right as I was gaining consciousness, especially, you know, I got to see it in theaters, all of that, right? I was sword fighting or lightsaber fighting, excuse me, with all the neighborhood kids. It's peak Star Wars. It's got some amazing lightsaber fights. It's got the greatest character arc with Anakin's fall into Darth Vader. It's the classic trope of literally every single time I watch that movie, I'm like, he's gonna choose right this time. He's not gonna fall this time. I know he's not gonna do it. He does it every time, man.
He does it every time. It's really sad. I will also say that I think that this movie does have the best lightsaber fight in all of Star Wars, which is Anakin and Obi-Wan's. I think that being number 1 without a fucking question. Without a question. You can't even debate me on it. There's no other one.
No, definitely not in the sequel trilogy. I mean, I think this has to go in S tier, personally.
S tier?
I love this one. This I think might be my favorite Star Wars movie.
I only disagree on putting it in S tier. I also love this movie. This movie might also be my favorite Star Wars movie, but I do not think that it is of the same caliber as Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi. And one could say, as a Star Wars fan, that maybe even putting it into A tier is a little high. I think this movie belongs in an A tier, though.
I will not let you put this in B tier, so it's going to go into A tier.
Yes, we're going into A tier for Revenge of the Sith. A great movie, like, honestly. And I think one of the things that makes Episode 3 so strong, and in particularly these 6 movies, I think why they're so cohesive is because George Lucas came up with the story at the very least for all 6 of these movies, right? And now we're getting into the sequel trilogy, which is where we're going to get a little dicey in here.
Yeah, I gotta head out, actually.
I think my hottest takes might be for these 3 movies. And of course, naturally, we are going to start with... I understand the criticisms of this movie, and I even actually agree with a majority of them, i.e., like, Episode 7 is basically an Episode 4 remake. I don't necessarily disagree with that, right? It's just a bigger, badder Death Star. Death Star 3.0, Starkiller Base, right?
Right.
It can shoot 5 planets credits now, Kyle, and that's why it's different. But I think that this movie also, and I hope that this is coming across in the video, it's probably not. This movie feels like a Star Wars movie. And I think that is probably the saving grace of this movie. I also think that the characters have great baselines in this movie. And this is me speaking on an anecdotal experience, okay? But I remember going and watching episode 7 in theaters. I was so excited that I was living in an era where I could like go see a Star Wars movie in theaters and truly appreciate it. So that was my mindset going into this movie. I just remember feeling so hyped. I was like, we back, baby, at the end of this movie. I will be intellectually honest. I think that this movie is a solid B+. I think it should go into the B tier, but I want to hear what you have to say, Kyle.
I mean, I have pretty much the same thing to say as you in that my opinion lines up with a lot of the criticism. But where I differ is I don't think that it's a bad thing. Star Wars is a space opera. There's supposed to be some campiness, right? There's supposed to be some cheesiness. Again, we set it up in A New Hope. Like, this is a series built on callbacks, you know?
Right.
And so for this reboot, because it kind of is a reboot, to feel like the original in a lot of ways doesn't come off as bad to me. And I think it was done pretty well. There was enough difference, you know? We're not on fucking Tatooine again, you know? But yeah, I think B is a great place for this movie. Watching this new trilogy, I came out of this one pretty hyped. Like you said, I was like, hell yeah, we can do this. You know, we're in good hands. We have a great director. He's got a great vision for it, you know? And then... And this is really kind of what started this whole thing off. I love that this is how it lined up. What was that? Dude? What? Throughout the movie, throughout this tier list, we've been saying this movie feels like a Star Wars movie, right? And I feel like that's all been leading to this moment where I get to say that this movie didn't feel like a Star Wars movie. This movie felt like a Marvel movie trying to be a Star Wars movie to me, right? And there was a lot of things that did it for me. The prevalence of the one-liners, right? Because Star Wars has always had some one-liners, but they're quips, you know, they're little offhanded, boom, on to the next one, right? We're not having full, beat, joke, beat, you know? We're not pausing for laughter. Yeah. Leia floating through fucking space. Why is everybody force sensitive now? But also nobody's actually a Jedi.
Right.
And I know that Leia got training in some fucking off-screen thing, but like that just didn't feel right to me. Call me sexist in the comments. I'm waiting for it, but like, and I get it, she's a Skywalker, so I'm sure there's some level of it. Why did it wait fucking 3.5 movies to show up then? I think this movie goes in D tier. It's our lowest tier.
Did you say
I think
D as in dog tier?
D as in dog tier. Purely fucking Luke drinking milk straight from the teat of the blue cow thing gets it right into D tier right off the bat, dude. Mm-hmm. How did that make it past multiple teams of editors? That had no reason to be in the movie, dude.
This is what I will say. And the reason that it's already in D tier is because I also want to put this movie in D tier. But to kind of expand on it a little bit, I have a lot of issues with this movie. And it's mostly for like the character stuff, kind of like what Kyle was saying about like, you know, the Leia thing. I think that Finn gets robbed pretty hardcore.
Robbed, dude.
Mm-hmm. And just the way that his character ended up going in this franchise, I think was ultimately disappointing. Again, I was so hyped after episode 7. Finn was kind of introduced as maybe like this force sensitive, like reformed stormtrooper.
Which is such
And
a
I have
cool idea, dude.
It's a very cool idea. And I have an overall theory that I'm going to get to when we talk about the next movie here for a second. And I know that the intention of this movie, or at least the director's intention, Rian Johnson's intention with this movie, was to subvert people's expectations. And if this was the goal of the movie, then you accomplished it. Congratulations, right? And this movie still made over $1 billion. I'm not over here. I'm not anybody special. This video probably won't get 50 views, right? Like, let me be very clear about what we're talking about here, right?
However,
The best way that I can describe what episode 8 did to this trilogy is J.J. Abrams walks in and he creates episode 7. And he's like, this is a baseball. This is Star Wars. We're playing baseball on a baseball diamond, right? And J.J. Abrams' job as the first director in this trilogy is he's like, okay, this is Star Wars. I'm going to throw the ball up into the air. There's a world of possibilities that can happen before it comes down and you swing the bat, right? All you have to really do is swing the bat. And I think that he held up his end of the bargain in that regard. What Rian Johnson did was he came in holding a basketball, walks onto the baseball diamond, and was like, no, this is Star Wars. And then he punts the basketball. That's basically what happened in this movie. And I think that that is what is so frustrating about it. And I think that because of that intent from Rian Johnson, which isn't like on its face like a bad way to go, like subverting people's expectations, it's just the way that the expectations were subverted in this movie wasn't my favorite. I think that it took away all of the momentum that this prequel or this sequel trilogy could have ever had. And not to mention Rey's Jedi training, just a waste of time, by the way.
Yeah.
So
it does have one of my favorite moments in the entirety of Star Wars, though, I will say, which is when the Admiral lady that takes over for Leia rams the ship.
Holdo
uses the light speed jump to ram the ship into the Star Destroyer. Incredible.
So good.
Dude. So good. Does not save it from being in D tier, though.
No.
At all.
No. Unfortunately. But now this brings us to... And Kyle and I actually had the privilege of watching this movie together, which was very fun.
Yeah.
I'm very glad that we got to watch this movie together.
It was great.
This is another hot take, okay? Are you guys ready for this? I like Rise of Skywalker. I like this movie. J.J. Abrams came back to direct this one, which may contribute to why I like it. I also liked his Star Trek, right? I think that this movie really feels like a Star Wars movie. I think that's probably the strongest component of this movie. And this is kind of my overall theory on the sequel trilogy, is that a lot of things that happen in episode 9 probably should have happened in episode 8. And if they had happened in episode 8, I think a lot of the things that people are upset about with the sequel trilogy would be resolved, i.e., Rey being a Palpatine, right? I think that there is no problem. No one has any issue with Rey being a Palpatine or even Palpatine coming back if her shooting lightning out of her hand on accident happens in episode 8 instead of in episode 9, right? We had to cram all of this lore into episode 9 because Rian Johnson spent most of episode 8 wasting my goddamn time.
Literally on a MacGuffin. Oh my God.
Correct. Like 3 MacGuffins in that movie. But in terms of putting this on a tier list, I do think that I have to just be intellectually honest. I think I have to be somewhat creatively consistent in this regard. I don't think we could put this movie any higher than a C tier. It's a mess, and it's not that movie's fault that episode 9 is a mess, but it is a mess. And so I think it has to be in C tier, but it's better than Last Jedi. Yeah. And so I don't think it deserves to be in D tier.
No, I think you're spot on the nose, unfortunately. I think with where it was left off, where J.J. Abrams had to kind of pick up the pieces, I think he would have had to pull off a miracle to get anything above a B tier, You know, I think a C is about as good as he could have hoped to do as far as saving that trilogy goes, without just completely retconning 50 to 75% of the previous movie. And so yeah, there's some really good moments in this. I think there's a lot of cheese. I don't like how it ends. Personally speaking,
Yeah.
just the very last moment, I loved her burying the lightsabers. Should have just left it there.
Ray Skywalker.
But I think for right now, this is how we're rating the Star Wars Skywalker Saga movies, my friends. Right here at the top, S tier, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. A tier, A New Hope and Episode 3. B tier, Episode 1 and Episode 7. C tier, we've got Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker. And then right at home, where it belongs at the very bottom in D tier, is The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable with this. I like this. I knew that we weren't going to disagree too much.
Yeah, I am surprised to see such an even distribution. I am curious to see how this shifts too over the next couple of months here.
Maybe we were all wrong about Episode 2. Maybe it's actually unironically the best one.
Maybe Jar Jar Binks is the best character in all of Star Wars.
Maybe it would have been better if Jar Jar was the villain the whole time, right?
Maybe you dumb motherfuckers are right and Jar Jar Binks is a Sith Lord. Actually.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Only time will tell.
Well, thank you for listening to the show, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. Thanks for commenting, letting us know just how wrong and stupid we are in the comments below. We really appreciate it so much. I'm very excited to get into this series here. It's obviously one of the cornerstones of the genre. And so we really figured what better place to start our real education on sci-fi here. So we'll see how this shifts, and yeah, we'll see where this takes us.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how this tier list changes once we've watched and reviewed all 9 films. And I guess we might just have to define if it's like a 9.5 or above. It's an S tier or whatever, but it's going to be awesome. I love Star Wars. I'm so excited.
I'll just say it one more time. I'm so excited to do this. So we'll see you guys in the next tier list and in the next review. I'm Kyle.
Yes. I'm Arden, and we will see you next time.
Stay safe. Stay weird.
The danger is real. Insert lightsaber sound here.
Wait.
There it is. We'll see you guys next time.
Okay. I brush my teeth and I sip, drink. It's pearly white and look the same.
Boop. Welcome to... Damn it. I tried so hard to keep that and you got me. Oh, it's so good. Oh, it's so funny.